Just 40 years ago, China was one of the poorest countries on Earth. Millions were starving. And its economy was once even 1.5 times smaller than Iran's. But now in 2025, it is 42 times larger. Today, it's a global superpower with the second largest economy in the world. So how did this dramatic transformation happen? From deadly famines and failed revolutions to tech giants, supercities, and space programs. This is the real story of China's rise. And it all started with one bold decision in 1978. In 1978, when a leader named Deng Xiaoping brought in major reforms, he opened up the economy, allowed foreign trade, and encouraged private business. These changes helped China grow very fast. Since then, the country has made big progress in manufacturing, technology, education, and more. This growth lifted millions of people out of poverty. Interestingly, Chinese people don't call their country China. They call it Zhongguo, which means Middle Kingdom, showing how they saw themselves as the center of the world in ancient times. China is the fourth largest country by land, but most Chinese people live far away, on the eastern side where the land is good for farming. The western side has mountains and deserts, making it harder to live. In the past, China was one of the richest civilizations in the world. But things changed in the 1800s, when colonial powers started interfering. From 1839 to 1949, China went through a very painful period. This is called the Century of Humiliation. It started when the British began selling opium to China, leading to addiction and social damage. China lost wars, signed unfair treaties, and had to give up land and control of ports. In 1850, the Taiping Rebellion broke out, killing millions. Later, in 1894, China lost a war to Japan. Between 1937 and 1945, China faced brutal attacks from Japan during World War II. Consequently, Japan colonized parts of China, including Manchuria and major eastern cities like Nanjing, Shanghai, and Beijing. During World War II, China was part of the Allied powers fighting against Japan. It was a brutal time. Around 30 million Chinese people lost their lives. But in the end, China and the Allies won, and Japan surrendered. Right after the war, China entered a civil war. It was between two groups, the Communist Party and the Nationalist Party. The Civil War ended in 1949. The Communists, led by Mao Zedong, won. The Nationalists escaped to a nearby island, which is now called Taiwan. That same year, on the 1st of October 1949, the People's Republic of China was officially formed. Mao Zedong became the leader and symbol of the new China.
Mao Zedong.
In 1958, Mao launched a campaign called the Great Leap Forward. The goal was to quickly improve China's economy through farming and steel production. Meanwhile, people were told to build small furnaces at home to make steel. But the steel was low quality, and useful resources were wasted. Farms were taken from landowners and turned into collective farms. The government controlled everything, so farmers had no personal motivation to grow more food. Food production dropped sharply from 1958 to 1961. Grain output fell by 15%. Because of bad policies, poor planning, and bad weather, a deadly famine followed. An estimated 20 to 40 million people died. Mao made many poor decisions, and since there were no checks on his power, no one could stop him. One strange campaign was the sparrow extermination. Mao thought birds were eating crops, so he ordered all sparrows to be killed. But once the birds were gone, insects spread everywhere because no birds were left to eat them. This made the food shortage even worse. Mao faced criticism from the people and even from within his party. But instead of stepping back, he launched another campaign, the Cultural Revolution in 1966. Officially, it was to change the culture of China, but really, it was to silence his critics and keep power. Even top leaders like Deng Xiaoping and Liu Shaoqi were removed from power. The whole country lived in fear. Mao died in 1976. Until then, China had made little real progress, but not everything was negative under his rule. Mao promoted education and women's rights. A public school system was created, and many literacy campaigns were launched. By 1978, China had 3 times more schools than in 1949. After Mao's death, a new leader emerged, known as Deng Xiaoping. He is often called the father of modern China. He had once been punished during Mao's time, but now he brought a fresh vision. Deng believed that too much government control had ruined the economy. So, he introduced economic reforms to give people more freedom in farming and business. This idea became known as socialism with Chinese characteristics. In farming, Deng introduced the household responsibility system. The government still owned the land, but farmers could lease it for long periods. They could choose what to grow and keep the extra profits after meeting government quotas. This gave farmers motivation to work harder and increase production. Between 1978 and 1984, China's farm output grew by an average of 7.4% per year, and grain production doubled. He used a similar system in factories. Managers and workers got more control over what they produced, how much they earned, and how the factory was run. This freedom gave them a sense of ownership, which improved productivity. Another major step was in education. In 1986, China passed a law making 9 years of education free and compulsory for all children. China also gave a lot of importance to vocational training. People were taught job-specific skills, not just theory. Because of these efforts, literacy in China improved fast. In 1982, it was around 65%. By 2010, it crossed 95%. Just like education, healthcare also matters. In 2021, China spent 5.59% of its GDP on health. Another smart step by Deng Xiaoping was setting up township and village enterprises (TVEs). They help boost rural incomes. One famous TVE example is Huawei, which started in a small town and became a global tech giant. Another is the city of Wenzhou, known for shoe manufacturing. It started with small local factories and grew into a global exporter. But all this success only happened because people were already educated and skilled. That's why foreign companies started coming to China. In 1980, China launched Special Economic Zones (SEZs). The first was Shenzhen, which used to be a small fishing town. But because of low taxes, fewer rules, and skilled workers, Shenzhen became a global business hub. Its GDP grew from just $0.3 billion in 1980 to $420 billion by 2020. To make SEZs successful, China introduced the open door policy. With this, global companies like Apple, Nike, then Volkswagen came to China. Foreign direct investment (FDI) in China rose from $0.06 billion in 1980 to over $333 billion in 2021. Alongside this, the government also focused on infrastructure like building, roads, railways, and public transport in cities. Deng launched crash training programs for over 800,000 researchers. Priority areas included computers, energy, space, physics, and genetics. By 2020, China was spending more than $500 billion on research and development.
A major result of this is Zhongguancun Science Park in Beijing. It's China's version of Silicon Valley, home to tech firms, research labs, and universities. Deng Xiaoping once said, "We crossed the river by feeling the stones." It means every step was tested before moving forward.